Imagine slicing into a soft, fluffy cake layered with sweet, juicy strawberries and topped with clouds of light, flavorful cream cheese frosting. Today, I'm bringing that dream into your kitchen. Hi, you're with Wendy and Shannon. This strawberry cake is a must-try this summer season. So let's start baking. We're going to start the recipe by first pureeing some strawberries. So we've taken 1 pound of nice red strawberries. We're first going to hull them, basically taking off the leaves. And now since we're putting it into our blender, I'm going to puree it. I'm just going to cut it into a half. And now we're going to prep the rest of the strawberries. Let's toss them into the jar of our blender. And now let's go ahead and blend it to a puree. Strawberries contain a lot of water and we want to reduce that water content. So we're going to pour it into our pot. Now this should be around 1.5 cups. So we're going to reduce it on a medium heat till we get about 1 cup. And you're gently going to stir it around while it's on the heat. When it comes to this stage and you see the bubbles coming up, it will start splashing a little bit, so it's good to keep stirring it very gently. Now it's looking like it's reduced to about 1 cup, so I've switched off the heat. Now we're going to pour it into a bowl for it to cool down. And I'm using a flatter bowl so that it gets extra space to spread out and cool down faster. Just going to spread it around, give it a few stirs. And now we're going to keep it aside to cool while we get started with mixing the cake batter. The strawberry puree that we're going to be using in the cake is a little bit on the heavier side. So we're going to go in with cake flour. We've got 5.5 cups of cake flour in this cake, and that's going to help to lighten up the cake. And to that we're going to add 2 tablespoons of baking powder and 3/4 teaspoon of salt. Let's whisk that together and make sure that it gets well blended. If you wanted, you could even sift it together. To the bowl of the stand mixer, we're going to add 1 cup and 2 tablespoons of butter, and you want it to be at room temperature. And we're using unsalted butter for this recipe. So when you press it, you should be able to get your finger impression on it. And now to that, we're going to add 2.25 cups of white granulated sugar and 6 tablespoons of a neutral vegetable oil. And now we're going to put on our paddle attachment and cream it together. So now first let's start it on a low speed and then we will crank up the speed. Now after about 3 to 4 minutes, when the butter has turned pale and you've incorporated some air into the mix, we're going to turn off the speed of the mixer, scrape down the bowl and the blade, and then add in 6 tablespoons of room temperature Greek yogurt. And now that the strawberry puree has cooled down, we're going to add it to the mix. And now let's mix this up for another 2 to 3 minutes. At this stage, the batter might look a little bit curdled, but nothing to worry about. It's going to come together perfectly in a little bit. Now we're going to break 5 large eggs into this measuring cup and make sure that the eggs and all the ingredients are at room temperature. Now we're going to whisk them together so that we break up the yolks. And once the egg yolks and the egg whites have blended, you're going to take out 2 tablespoons of the mix and add it to a separate bowl. To the eggs, we're going to add 1.5 cups of room temperature buttermilk. And if you don't have buttermilk handy at home, you can hop onto my coconut bun cake recipe where I've shown you how to make buttermilk at home. Next, let's add in 2.25 teaspoons of a pure vanilla extract and 1.5 teaspoons of strawberry emulsion. Or you could also use a strawberry extract. Now let's whisk that all together till it gets well blended. To bring the batter together, we're going to add the dry ingredients and the wet ingredients to the bowl of the stand mixer, alternating between the two, beginning and ending with the dry ingredients. So with our mix on a low speed, we're going to start adding 1/3 portion of the dry ingredients. And once that is just about incorporated, we'll add half the portion of the wet ingredients. And now that that is looking well incorporated, we're going to continue doing this, alternating between the dry ingredients and the wet ingredients. This looks like a pretty pink, but in the oven, this color is going to tone down. So we're going to add in a few drops of pink food coloring so that our cake turns out a pretty pink. Now I'm using a gel food coloring. So we're going to add in just a few drops first. And now we're just going to turn the mixer on once again till the color gets well blended. Now you don't want to over mix the batter, so we're going to switch off the mixer and finish mixing it by hand. Just going to scrape down the sides. You don't want any of the dry flour in the mix. We want to make sure that everything is well mixed. Finishing it off by hand helps not to over mix the batter. So you get a nice light and fluffy cake. And when mixing it by hand, make sure to use the cut and fold method so that you don't take out any of that air that has been incorporated in the batter. So look at that lovely, luscious batter. We're going to be dividing our batter into 3 9-inch cake pans, and I've already prepped the cake pans. And if you want to know how to prep the cake pans, you can hop onto my Dubai chocolate cake recipe, which I will leave the link in the description box below. And I've also added on these wet strips. This is to keep the cake pan cool so that the cake rises evenly. Just going to divide this and I'm going to eyeball that. And now we'll pour it into the second cake pan. If you wanted, you could also weigh it out. Now that we have the cakes almost equal, we're going to spread the batter across the pan and level it out. And you're going to use a very light hand when doing it. You don't want to take out any of that air that we've incorporated. Now let's do the last cake. And now we're going to pop them into our preheated oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 180 degrees Celsius. And we're going to bake them for approximately 20 to 25 minutes until a toothpick inserted into the center comes out clean. Now that 2 of our cakes have baked and out of the oven, I popped the third one into the oven. I could have put all 3 at one time, but I prefer doing 2 at a time. And now that all our 3 cakes have baked, we're going to allow them to cool completely while we whip up the frosting. To flavor our frosting, we're going to go in with 2 cups of freeze-dried strawberries. You could use fresh strawberries, but I sometimes find that it tends to split in the frosting, so I prefer using the freeze-dried strawberries. We're going to puree this till we get a fine powder. Now you could get whole freeze-dried strawberries or you could get them in halves, in slices. I just opted for the smaller pieces. Now that's what we're looking for, and this is going to give a lot of color and flavor to our frosting. We are going to be making a cream cheese frosting, and for that we're going to go in with 570 grams of cream cheese. It's not very soft, it's a little bit on the firmer side. And to that we're going to add 1 cup of unsalted room temperature butter. You want the butter to be softer than the cream cheese. We're going to fix on the paddle attachment and cream the 2 together till well blended. Occasionally, while mixing the frosting, you want to stop the mixer and scrape down the bowl. You want to get everything from the sides to the bottom. Once again, let's give it a quick mix. We're going to toss in the freeze-dried strawberry powder, and now we're going to blend it together. Now it's time for us to start adding in the icing sugar. And we're going to turn our mixer on a stir speed because we don't want a cloud of icing sugar up in our face. And I'll let you know exactly how much I've added once the frosting is ready, because it tends to differ from time to time how much of icing sugar goes into the frosting. We're just going to give it a scrape down. Just getting all that sugar that is stuck on the blade on the top. Then the sides. Can't help myself, have to take a little lick. Yum. Okay, now that we scraped down the bowl and put in the icing sugar, let's crank up the speed just a little bit and blend it well. Okay, wow, that's fantastic. And this is the consistency you're looking for. And here's a little tip. When you start off your frosting with a little bit of a chilled cream cheese, you add in less icing sugar. And for me, that's a win-win. So altogether, we've added in 9.5 cups of icing sugar. So that our cake does not slip off the cake base, we're just going to put a little bit of the frosting on it so that the bottom layer of the cake sticks onto the base. Now we're going to place the first layer, and now we're going to put some of that frosting on the top. Now I'm going to spread it across. And you can always add more if you want. And I've got about 1 cup of finely chopped strawberries, and we're going to put some of those on the top of the frosting. We really want all that strawberry flavor. Just going to spread it around. Gently press them down. And now to seal it all together, we're going to put just a little bit of the frosting on the top. And now grab all the confidence you have and start spreading the frosting across with a gentle hand. The top layer of frosting on top of the strawberry pieces is also going to help the next layer of cake stick onto the bottom layer. And now we're going to place on the next layer of cake. And we're just going to give it a light press to make sure it sticks onto the bottom. Now once again, we're going to go and put our frosting on the top. And now we're going to spread that all over the top of this layer. And now we're going to toss on some of those chopped strawberries once again. Now let's spread those around. This is strawberry season, so this is the best time to make this cake. And we're going to repeat the process we did the first time and put a thin layer of the frosting on top of the chopped strawberries. I'm going to use a very gentle hand here while doing it. And now let's put on the last layer. And we're gently going to press that down once again. Now we're going to frost the top of the cake first and gently going to spread that around. And now that it's almost even, we're going to go in with our bent scraper or pastry leveler and just turn it around just to get that finishing touch. And now that we have a fairly smooth layer of our frosting on the cake, we're going to pipe on some flowers just to decorate the top. If you wanted, you could even put an edge to it. We'll just pipe on some smaller flowers around here. And now to decorate it, we're going to put some strawberries on the top. One over there, another one somewhere here. And let's finish off by placing on some French macaroons on the top as well. I've cut one into half, and I'm going to place one half over there and another half over here. Little decoration on the side. I'm going to finish it off by placing some of the macaroon to it, the side. And we're just going to add a few of those freeze-dried strawberries on top of the frosting for an added touch. Oh my goodness! Look at that! Today, we are not going to be cutting this cake and doing a tasting because this is actually a surprise cake for Shannon and Brandon. If I've not mentioned it to you before, both my kids are born on the same day, 2 years apart. So hang tight till they cut the cake for you. But I can tell you that this cake is so fluffy and moist, and you get those little strawberry bits with every bite. And this cream cheese frosting that we put, it brings the cake together. It's just like tasting summer on a plate. I hope you give this recipe a try, and do let me know in the comments how you enjoyed it. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. And while you're at it, press that bell icon to get notified every time we upload new videos. And follow us on our socials. Bye. See you in the next one.